The airport clock had just passed 3:07 a.m. when the young nurse dropped her suitcase beside the departure gate and covered her face with trembling hands. Her boarding pass was still in her fingers, but there was no flight left for her to catch. Through tears, she whispered the words that would soon change 2 lives forever: "My mother is dying, and I can't afford a ticket." She had spent every dollar she had on her mother's hospital bills, and now, thousands of miles away, the woman who had raised her was fighting for her final breath. She had no money, no family nearby, and no idea how she could get home in time. A wealthy businessman sitting alone across the waiting area heard every word. He looked at the crying nurse, then at the empty seat beside her suitcase, and quietly said, "We'll go together. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the idea that one small act can change an entire life, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, leave a comment, and subscribe to Echoes of Kindness." Stories like this remind us that sometimes humanity is the greatest wealth anyone can possess. Her name was Elena, and for the past 6 years she had worked as a nurse in a large city hospital. She was the kind of nurse who remembered patients' names, held frightened hands before surgery, and stayed a few extra minutes when someone had no family waiting outside. But behind that calm smile was a life filled with sacrifice. Her mother, Maria, had raised Elena alone after her husband died when Elena was only 9. Maria worked 2 jobs, repaired clothes late into the night, and somehow always made sure there was enough food on the table. When Elena became a nurse, Maria proudly told everyone in their small hometown that her daughter had a heart that belonged to the world. Then came the phone call Elena had been dreading. Her mother had collapsed at home. The doctors discovered that her condition was far worse than anyone had realized. She needed immediate treatment, but the hospital warned Elena that the next 24 hours could be critical. Elena immediately booked a flight, but when she arrived at the airport, she discovered that her card had been declined. She tried another card. Nothing. Her savings were gone. Every paycheck for months had disappeared into medical expenses, and the emergency ticket cost more than she had left. She pleaded with the airline employee, offering to pay part of the amount and promising she would repay the rest, but rules were rules. That was when Elena sat down and broke. She called the hospital where her mother was staying, and a doctor told her that Maria had become unconscious. Elena pressed the phone against her ear as though holding it tighter could somehow bring her mother closer. She whispered that she was coming, that she just needed a little more time. But she knew time was the one thing she did not have. Across the terminal, Daniel Carter had been watching quietly. He was a successful businessman who traveled constantly, owned several companies, and had spent years believing that money could solve almost every problem. Yet that night, as he watched Elena cry beside her suitcase, his wealth suddenly felt meaningless. He approached her and asked what had happened. Elena was embarrassed to explain, but desperation overcame pride. She told him about her mother, the missed flight, the hospital, and the money she didn't have. Daniel listened without interrupting. Then he took out his phone and made one call. Within minutes, he arranged another seat on the next available flight. Elena stared at him in disbelief when he told her the ticket was taken care of. But Daniel wasn't finished. He said he was traveling to the same city for a business meeting and that she shouldn't have to make the journey alone. Elena tried to refuse, saying she could not accept such generosity from a stranger. Daniel simply told her that if his own mother were dying, he would pray that someone would help her too. The flight felt endless. Elena sat by the window, staring into the darkness below while holding an old photograph of Maria. Daniel noticed that she kept touching the picture with her thumb. Eventually Elena told him about her childhood, about the woman who had given up everything so her daughter could have a better life. She remembered how Maria used to wait by the window when Elena came home from school, even on freezing nights. She remembered her mother pretending she wasn't hungry so Elena could have the last piece of bread. With every memory, Elena's tears returned. When they finally landed, Elena rushed through the airport and straight to the hospital. Daniel followed at a respectful distance. The hallway smelled of antiseptic, and the sound of medical equipment filled the silence. Elena pushed open the hospital room door and froze. Maria lay pale and still beneath the white sheets. For one terrifying second, Elena thought she had arrived too late. Then Maria's fingers moved. Elena grabbed her mother's hand and began sobbing. Maria slowly opened her eyes. Her voice was weak, but she recognized her daughter. Elena bent over her, whispering that she was there, just as she had promised. Maria looked beyond her daughter and saw Daniel standing near the doorway. Elena explained what he had done. Maria could barely speak, but she lifted one trembling hand toward him in gratitude. Daniel smiled and told her she didn't owe him anything. Maria shook her head and whispered that kindness was never something a person owed back, it was something they passed forward. Maria survived that night. Her recovery was slow, but she fought with the same strength that had carried her family through years of hardship. Daniel returned home after his business trip, but he never forgot Elena or her mother. Months later, Elena received a letter from his foundation offering her a position helping families who struggled to afford emergency medical travel. Daniel had quietly created the program after what happened at the airport. Years passed, and Elena eventually became the director of that program. Hundreds of patients and families were able to reach their loved ones because of the help she organized. Whenever someone asked why she had dedicated her life to it, she told them about one night at an airport when she had nothing left except hope, and a stranger decided that hope was enough reason to help. Maria lived for many more years. She often told people that the greatest miracle wasn't the money, the airplane ticket, or even the hospital treatment. The miracle was that when her daughter felt completely alone, kindness found her in the middle of a crowded airport at 3 a.m. And perhaps that is the lesson we all need to remember: we may never know how close someone is to giving up. A simple kindness, a helping hand, a compassionate word, or a decision to stand beside someone in their darkest hour can become the moment that changes everything. If this story touched your heart, please support Echoes of Kindness by liking the video, sharing it with someone you love, and subscribing. Your engagement helps these stories reach people who may need a little hope today. Before you leave, comment, "Kindness always finds a way," if you believe no one should have to face their darkest moment alone. Because sometimes, the person sitting quietly beside you isn't waiting for money, success, or a miracle. They are simply waiting for someone to notice that they need help. And sometimes, being that person